Hello! Sorry if I look a little bit of a mess. I've just gotten back from work and I wanted to film this before my hubby came home. But I wanted to do more book content on here because I've been getting into reading a lot more. I've already posted a couple of book reviews here and there on here. Most of my book reviews have been on my Instagram account, but I want to try and start kind of like duplicating those, especially for like shorts and reels and such. But since the year is half over, which I can't believe it's been half over, I feel like my entire summer has been consumed by like modified duty and like my shoulder, which by the way, my shoulder is getting better. I'm currently working at Epcot right now, backstage, doing some like recycle work, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. I do have some fun videos coming up soonish. I have some trips coming up that are going to be really exciting, and they're Disney themed, so there's going to be a lot of Disney content with that and planning for a couple of things. But let's get into books. Now, I tried to pick one book for every month, but I have to admit that some of them, like even my favorite book of the month was like not one of my favorite books. So I did pick like a couple of extras because there were a couple of seasons that I've read a lot of series and I wanted to talk to you about them. So without further ado, let's get into it. So my first book, which is actually the first book that I finished of the year, it's called None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I hope you guys can see this. This is on my iPad. So this book I listened to as an audiobook, which this is one of those situations that was perfect for it because the book is about, it's a duo POV about a podcaster who does stories about like real people's lives, and then the person who she's interviewing in question, like her point of view as well, and kind of like her doing like reminiscing about her life and such. The thing about Lisa Jewell that she does is she likes to do multiple POVs, but one POV is always like a, you know, like 3 months ago or like 60 years ago or something like that. It like takes place in the past, and whatever happens in the past has something to do with what's going on currently. But what I liked about this is because it's from the POV of a podcaster, but the way that the audiobook was done, it was in the sense of like you were listening to a podcast, which I really enjoyed because there was a moment where I felt like I was listening to a podcast and like this was like actually happening. It was really cool how they edited it. But what I love about this book is the fact that it's like super twisty, because at the end you realize none of it is true. It's really cool. If you've never listened to a Lisa Jewell book, I suggest starting with this one, and I suggest listening to it because it's a very different experience. There's a couple of these books that I'm going to go through that I listened to, and I feel like it changed or affected how I portrayed the book in question. Like it might have made it or broke it for me. We'll get to that in a moment. Second book is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now, this book was everywhere when it came out. I don't know why. It says every person with a heartbeat should read this book. I don't know why. So the book is about basically a girl who her father was very abusive, and it's about her finding new love. But I hate to say it, history repeats itself, and I hope that doesn't give anything away. But it also reminisces about her first love and like a relationship that helped her kind of get through or get away and escape that abusive relationship. Again, hope that doesn't give a whole lot away. I found it very predictable. It was one of those things where you're like screaming at the TV like, don't do that, you stupid person, don't you see what's going on? I didn't like it. There's also a sequel to it where it's like the other perspective. Without giving much away, I can't say too much, but like I didn't really like it a whole lot. I know it's got a movie coming out. I will definitely be watching the movie because it has Blake Lively in it, and I love Blake Lively. So I don't know. If you're gonna watch the movie, maybe read the book. I don't know. I just didn't like it. We're gonna move on. That was my February book, and then on to March book. Again, not my favorite. So I read through the majority of the basic ACOTAR series, aka A Court of Thorns and Roses, by Sarah J. Maas. I didn't like this one either. Here's the thing, right? Okay, so this book, I listened to the dramatized version, which I feel like I enjoyed it more because I listened to the dramatized version, but I've been told that because I listened to the dramatized version, I missed a lot of things, and I would have enjoyed it more if I just read it. That's what I was told. But here's my main issues with the story, right? I think Farah, the main character in this book, is kind of annoying. I didn't really enjoy her a whole lot. The story is basically Beauty and the Beast meets Merida. That's like this first book here. So like if you love Beauty and the Beast, you'll probably enjoy this story. I enjoyed the end part of the book. I did not enjoy the whole first part of the book. The whole first part of the book was very hard for me to get through. It took me, I started this book in like January and I didn't finish it till like the end of March. It took me a very long time to get through this book. And again, I was listening to the dramatized version, which from what I've discovered is like a shortened version of this book. There's another issue I had with this storyline and Sarah J. Maas's books in general is she likes to add a lot of lore that doesn't really change or modify the story as a whole. It's just kind of there. And it just like is too much. It's too much. I read this one, the second one, and then I read Silver Flames, which is about her sister Nesta and Cassian, their love story. I just couldn't. It was even hard for me to read the second one. The only reason I read the second one is because my best friend Stephanie is obsessed with this storyline, and she said the second one's better. It's slightly better, not a whole lot better. But like my main issue is there's so many different plot holes that it's like we're gonna introduce this, and then we're never gonna come back to it. And then there would be like drama for the sake of drama in the sense of like, oh, everything is peaceful and fine, but by the way, this bad thing is happening and now it's an issue. And I feel like that was every book. It was just like everything is fine. Oh, by the way, there's this monster or this bad thing going to happen. And it just didn't feel like it flowed well, you know? I just didn't like it. That doesn't mean that you won't like it. Again, this was my best friend's favorite series, so I can't say much about it. But we're gonna move on to something I did love, which is When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn. This is Francesca's story, Francesca and Michael's story from Bridgerton. I read this before season 3, so I have a lot of opinions after watching season 3. I did not expect this book to be good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed Francesca. It made me very excited to watch season 3. What I love about this story is, because the way the Bridgerton books go that people don't realize is they kind of overlap. There's a lot of like this is going on while the story is happening, but it's from the POV of the couple. So it's like the POV of Francesca and Michael, but Francesca marries John in other books, and the other siblings kind of mention it. If you don't watch Bridgerton, none of this is going to make sense. Don't worry about it. If you do, you understand. So like they overlap, which is why season 3 makes so much sense, because it's multiple couples getting married at a time, because that's how it is in the books. Anyway, that said, because Francesca and John's story is technically a prequel in a sense, because that doesn't really happen in the book, it happens before the book. A lot of things changed in the season that are kind of different towards the book. I'm not going to get into this anymore because I can do a whole video about this, but long story short, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It's her finding her second love, her love after loss. I thoroughly enjoyed her. Francesca and Daphne, I like relate to a lot, so I seriously enjoyed this book, and I did not expect to like it at all because Francesca's barely mentioned in any of the other books. So moving on, I've already mentioned this story. May was the month of me reading a ton of fantasy stories. So Realms of Wrath and Ruin is book 2 of the Gate Chronicles. I've already done a whole video about the Gate Chronicles. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. The Gate Chronicles is basically like the Lost City of Atlantis meets like Anastasia, steampunk, like it's enemies to lovers, very similar to like the romance and like the Mummy. I loved it. I thought it was so great. There's like absolutely no spice. It is an extreme slow burn. Thoroughly enjoyed it. such a cute, sweet fantasy story. Was a breath of fresh air after reading ACOTAR. Which, speaking of breath of fresh air, Devine Rivals, oh, by the way, The Gate Chronicles is by Ali Ernest, and Devine Rivals is by Rebecca Ross. This book, I didn't expect to like it because the scene area where it took place didn't seem like my kind of story. It reminded me a lot of like World War II, but with like a magical evil overlord, basically. It's really hard to explain without giving anything away. But the two of them, they like work in a kind of like a newspaper place, and they're kind of competing for the same position. And then things happen, war and all of that, and they end up finding these like magical typewriters that like they can like send messages to each other, but they don't know it's each other. And so it kind of gave off like long distance relationship love letters, but like texting in a way because they're sent immediately. Also a slow burn. There is some spice in this, but like it's very tasteful in a sense of I thought it was very, very sweet. I preferred the first book to the second book, which is Ruthless Vows. There were parts of the second book I liked, but I didn't love it as a whole, if that makes any sense. But I did love this. There's an audiobook on YouTube, by the way, that's free to listen to, so that's how I listened to it. Went too far. So the next series is the Everflame series. If you didn't like ACOTAR, but you kind of liked where it was going, I would pick up this series. It's Everflame series from Penn Cole. There's 4 books. The 4th book is actually coming out at the end of July, so I will be reading it. They're kind of lengthy. They do have moments where it's like, where is this going? It's kind of a lot of talking. But what I love about this series is it's kind of like Lost Princess with magical powers, in a place where there's like kind of like magical people who have like power, like kind of like a mutants in a sense. I can't remember the term that they use. It's not mutants, but like also against those who don't have any powers. There's like a major war going on between the two of them, and she kind of like tries to bring them both together because she doesn't know she has powers. I hope that doesn't spoil anything. But this is also like a slow burn, and what I love about this is like the main guy in it, there's a bit of a love triangle on it, but the main guy in it, it's very much like he's so devoted and loyal to her, and I absolutely love it. There is a little spice as the story goes along, but it's a very, very slow burn. Very slow burn. Still good though. So I ended up taking a break from fantasy and did a little I wouldn't call it a rom-com. It's more like a real-life romance in a sense. I don't know what the proper term is. This is the Friend Zone series by Abby Jimenez. This is book 1. I have read book 2 out of 3. 2 books out of 3. I don't know why I said it like that. So the first book is about a girl who, she basically thinks she's like damaged goods because of some medical issues. There's a little like fertility issues in there, so that's a little trigger warning in case that's a thing for you. But she with the encouragement of like her best friend, this is what I love most about this series, is like in this book and in the second book, the friendship relationship in this book between the two girls in both of these books is so strong. It like made me cry. Like, you're gonna want tissues for this one. The second book is more about whereas the first book is like, I'm damaged goods, no one will love me. The second book, and that's like a very like simplified version of that. The second book is very much like love lost, finding a second love type of a thing. But the two of them are sequels to each other. And it's so like, there were so many moments in both of those books where I was just like bawling my eyes out because it was so sweet. And like both books end with like a happy ending with like a cute little tied up with a ribbon. So like if you're looking for like something that's like just gonna make you feel good about life, like definitely these books will be good. I've heard a lot of good things about Abby Jimenez. These are the only 2 books I've read from her, but I plan on reading more. And then we're gonna end it on the HouseMaid series. I read the first book early on in the year, but I just finished the second book. They're from Frida McFadden? I don't know. So there's 3 books in the series. I've only read 2 of them. The first book, they're both about maids, and being tricked into a service or like a life that was not, or a job that was not expected of them. The first one, she's misled, it's so hard, I don't want to give anything away. She was like hired to be a maid, and it's so hard to explain without giving anything away. They're hired to be maids, both books, but things are not as they seem, and their employers are trying to basically trick them into something or blame something on them. I can't give anything away. They're both very different stories. The first book, she doesn't have anyone. She doesn't like have family, or she doesn't have like a boyfriend or anything, so she's very on her own, which makes her very vulnerable. And then the second one, she has a boyfriend, but like he's not as supportive as you would think, and she kind of like ends up on her own in a sense. But they both are very different. They're both very empowering books. Like, it's one of those things where it's like sweet innocent girl, oh no, it's gonna happen, and then she ends up turning the tables on them. I enjoyed both of them. They're from the POV of the maid, and then at the end of the book it's like the POV of the employer, so it's like previously on type of a situation, because something twisty happens at the end of both books. I think the third book is a sequel to the second one, or maybe it joins the two of them together. I haven't read much about it because I kind of want it to be a big surprise, but if you're interested in like twisty kind of whodunit, like what's gonna happen next, because both books keep you like they suck you in from like the very beginning, and they keep you for the whole book. But anyway, those are some of my books, the books that I've read / book recommendations. I hope you enjoyed them. If you have any book recommendations that you've read this year, please let me know in the comments below. If you've read any of the books that I read, let me know what you thought about them, whether you agreed or you disagreed. Let me know why. Of course, please be civil. I know everyone does not have the same taste that I do. That is something that me and my best friend Stephanie, we've been reading a lot of books, but we've realized that her books that she likes are different from the books that I like, but that's okay, you know? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Stay tuned. We are going to be posting lots of fun videos about going to Disneyland here soon, and Shay's bringing her kiddos here soon, and it's gonna be so much fun. So much fun. So subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.